Get it started.
We're getting it started. Welcome to the Embodied Woman podcast. We are so delighted to be here with all of you. Happy holidays. If you're listening to this in real time, well, kind of real time, but
Some
you
version of this will be out around the holidays.
you yes, hopefully if all goes according to plan. Amber, yeah, oh well, the video of course will. The audio
Yeah.
podcast takes a little longer, but Amber, I
Yeah.
love the earrings.
Thank you. Every
I
time I almost didn't put them on, but I keep thinking about Lori B.
That's why I was,
Lori B
yes.
style. Yeah.
Yes. We loved Lori.
Loved her.
So I'm really excited because today we are talking to Tori. And Tori is fascinating. She brings together the woo that we love, all the woo, and the kind
Mhm.
of business, practical, abundant mindset, success aspects of life. And she's like the
Mhm.
embodiment of these two kind of worlds, if you will. Like, I don't know if you'd call it yin and yang or like logic brain and
Masculine,
creative brain.
feminine.
Yeah. She's
Yeah.
got that like embodied balance of these two worlds. And then her story is really fascinating, which I think she'll share with us. And I don't want to tell her story for her. I want to hear it from her. Um, but I think I'll just go ahead and read her bio, and then she'll
Great.
pop on as I'm reading it, and we'll
Let's
just
do
see
it.
what happens. So Tori Jenae is an international success coach and energy therapist. I mean, right away, I just think that's so fascinating. She helps people
Yeah.
become powerful creators of their life by aligning with their soul's purpose to unlock abundance and so much more. She effortlessly blends Western psychology, Eastern wisdom, and energy work to help her clients get big results. One thing she said to me was that she's like her business partner is God. So I love that. Tori, oh, here she
Oh,
is.
I
I'm in
love
the middle of
that.
reading her bio. Tori holds a bachelor's and a master's degree in psychology, as well as a secondary master's degree specialization in transformational coaching. Isn't she gorgeous? She's also a 500-hour certified yoga and meditation teacher and trained in energy psychology, which is an energy modality that facilitates the healing of emotions, beliefs, and difficult experiences. Yet her greatest wisdom comes from growing up in a family riddled with addiction and struggles most will never face. She's learned so much about resiliency, compassion, and what it takes to make it through anything. She now lives in Los Angeles, California, and here she is. Oh, we were just
Hi,
saying,
Tori. Nice to meet you.
Hi, nice to meet you. Look at your Christmas. I love it in the background.
Thank you. Yes, it makes me feel happy. Makes
Yes,
me
for
feel
sure.
happy. Oh. Well, I'm really excited to meet you and to have you on and to have you share your story. That part in your bio that says that that talks about you going through some things that most people will never experience. Like my heart just is like, oh my gosh. And because to see who you are now and to see what you're creating, I mean,
it's
I
very
can't wait to hear.
inspiring.
It's incredibly inspiring. Yeah. So,
Oh,
I mean,
thank
if you're okay with just diving right into that, I'd love to hear what that is, what that part of your
Take
bio
us
is.
back to the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love to share this just really because I think we don't talk about our story of origin enough. And, statistically, a lot of people go through a lot of things that we don't know about. So I want to make it
Mhm.
safe for people to talk about these things. And
Yes.
we learn through story. So my story begins in, my mother struggled with addiction. She had a lot of trauma, but I was actually conceived in a drug rehab facility. My mom went out, met my dad. She didn't tell him she was in rehab, but that's where it started. She was actually in rehab for heroin addiction.
Mhm.
So she had pretty severe addictions. Unfortunately, that was not her last bout with drugs. Luckily, she did get off that particular one. But through her struggles with alcohol and drug addiction, she and my dad never worked out. He left, I think, when I was 6 months old. So I didn't meet him again until I was 15. And, we were on welfare, or, depending on where people are listening, that's like counselor state children, people in the UK. So we had a lot of struggles, kindergarten or age 5 through high school. I mean, we moved almost every year, K through grade 6. I went to 7 schools.
Mhm.
So we were only once, luckily, very close to homelessness. Like, we lived in a motel for a short period of time, but there was multiple marriages and just a lot of drama and trauma. And, like attracts like. So she'd typically end up with another addict.
Mhm.
So, and my biological father also struggles with alcoholism. He was in the Vietnam War. And when I met him later in life, he's got severe drug addiction. I'm sorry, alcoholism. My older brother on my dad's side also has drug addiction. But back to my mother,
Mhm.
um, I have an older sister. She ended up following the same path as my mother. And so she actually didn't, I don't even think she barely made it to the age of 40. So she made it to about 39, and she passed from drugs. I'm the oldest living person in my immediate family. Everyone else has passed away.
Wow.
So within the last 10 years, not only from the trauma of growing up in that way, a lot of difficulty, a lot of pain, moving out at 17. I think I had three stepdads. Some were good, some were not.
Mhm.
But there's a lot of moving, a lot of drama. I barely made it through high school. I luckily I was smart, and I put myself into another program that kind of was like a alternative school that helped me at least keep going, because I
Mhm.
had to work. But I left
Mhm.
at 17. My little brother was living with his paternal grandmother at that time, and she was a lovely, lovely, amazing woman. And I wanted to also help support him. So I went into full-time work, and I put school on the back burner and did the best that I could. And eventually, about 19, I started to go to university, because I knew that no one in my family, like my mom had never, she didn't graduate high school, let alone college. And I just class by class put myself through undergrad, and I paid for it all with cash, because I didn't even know how to take out a loan. I didn't know anything about money. I just, like a lot of people talk about businesses and how they kind of bootstrapped it because they didn't know. When I went to apply for loans, that terrified me. No one had ever taught me about loans or paying things back. I'd never seen, one of my stepdads never even had a bank account. So I'd never
Mhm.
seen stuff like that. I'd come from such a place of poverty and struggle that terrified me. So I just went to work hard. I worked in daycares. I did makeup, like you name it. I did whatever I needed to do.
Mhm.
Finally, when I was about 19, I started working in an office. I got into HR, like I slid into that. And then I started just slowly but surely putting myself through school. Eventually found a partner. We got married, and that was good for a long time. But in the last 10 years, my sister passed, my grandmother passed, my mom passed, my dad passed. My brother almost died. He got very ill in 2017, so he almost died. I just like it would be easier to tell you the traumas I haven't experienced in life than the ones that I have.
Mhm.
These are just like the very
Mhm.
high level things. I always kind of joke that like hopefully I don't have to go through a plane crash. like I so I really do have all of these amazing degrees and trainings, and I've been working on myself for 25 years. But my greatest experience is really my lived experience, and having to pull myself out of some of the darkest places that life offers, and grief. And I've had to make radical decisions in my life, looking at my parents and saying, okay, drugs and alcohol are really a problem for us. And so at 21, I made the choice to never ever drink again. And I sit in front of you as a 45-year-old woman who hasn't had a drink in 22 years. And for me, that was just Russian roulette, but it's like really
Mm.
changing our family story of origin is possible, and that we are capable of so much more. The human spirit is so amazing. And I just want people to remember that no matter what they've been through, there is a way out. You can heal, you can make new choices. And I know it's hard as hell, and not all of us, not that's not all of our soul path. Like my sister didn't make it out, but that's okay. That was her path, and everyone has their own. But I just really truly love to share that it is really possible for people no matter what's happened. And we hear traumatic things, someone's had it even worse than me. I know that for sure. But that is the high level of my story, to not take it for 2 hours on your podcast.
That's incredible. The thing that was going through my mind when you were talking, just picturing you, this young girl surrounded by the chaos and the dysfunction and the toxic, relationships and abuse. Like, what do you attribute your will, your drive that helped you find the path that you're on? Because there are so many children who had experiences of being, in abuse or in the type of environment that weren't able to. Do you think it's because of that, this is your soul path, or what do you attribute that to?
Yeah, on a deeper level, now that I'm an adult, I definitely see it was like my soul path. But I think there's two primary things I had that a lot of people don't give themselves credit for. One, I was really angry.
Okay.
When I was young, I
Yeah.
was really angry that all this was happening, and I channeled that anger into action.
Ooh, that's good. Okay.
Yeah, and the more I've learned about like vibrational rates and psychological things, like anger, some people are like, "Oh, I don't want to be angry, they're afraid of it." No, anger is the flip side of sadness and pain. And sometimes we need anger to say this is enough and I'm not going to deal with this anymore. And that was number one. Like when I really, because I've thought about this myself, like as someone who's trained in psychology, right? Like what was the it factor for me, who experienced neglect and abuse at times and all these things to say that I made a different choice. And it was really like I was like, okay, I'm mad, I'm angry. I don't want to live this life. I don't want to be here. This is so awful. And I kind of used that to think about how can I get out, instead of like kind of giving up and just following in the footsteps, because it would have been easier, like not feeling that pain, not feeling that anger, checking out with addiction. Like that would have been a very easy option for me. Drugs would not have been a hard path for me. Like I could have, there was weed and stuff around me at like 5 years old. Like I remember picking the seeds out of the weed for my parents. You know what I mean? Like weird, like crazy things, right? So like it wouldn't have been unheard of for me to be like 10 and maybe take some for myself, but I decided not to. The other thing was my younger brother was born when I was about 8, and I just fell in love with the kid the minute I saw him, and I never wanted bad things to happen to him. So it was also that drive of like protecting him and making sure that he was going to be okay. And to this day, we're still incredibly close. Like we live 15 minutes from each other. We talk every day. And, he, thank God, also is like a happy, healthy adult man.
Amazing.
I'm glad I brought my tissue box today. Holy, you are just absolutely amazing. I mean, I just think like it's so powerful. I mean, because tons of people are like, well, I'm destined to go down this path because this is what I come from. And you, at a very young age, like something inside of you was like, that is not my path. And I love that you said that about anger, because especially as women, I think many of us are like, ooh, it's taboo. Like we're not supposed to be angry, right? But it's like, fuck, no, there's some shit to be angry about, right? Clearly you had some shit to be angry about, but you like intuitively knew that you needed to channel that for the greater good. And zoomed out, clearly your soul is here for something much more important.
Yeah, and I had no clue, but I went back and I thought about, because I remember my brother's grandma, who I loved very much, but I remember she said I remember it was about 14, and she just like, you have the biggest chip on your shoulder. You're so angry. And I thought like, yeah, I am. Like, of course I'm angry that all this crazy stuff is happening to me, and it was like, when I think about it now, and I was just like to share that, because it's like, yeah, sometimes when we're in a situation even that we don't like, it's like we want to kind of repress our anger. And I'm like, no, your anger is there because it's trying to tell you like this isn't okay, and it's not aligned, it's not working. It's okay to be angry, and it's okay to use that anger to get you out of this position. And then when you're in a little bit better of a like status, then you can make a new choice. And now that I'm much older and I've studied all these things for so long, choice creates another level of karma. And that, like, every small choice I made when I was little, following my intuition. And I used to just think I was really street smart, by the way. I used to think like I grew up in rough neighborhoods, I was just really like street smart, but it was some part of me. And we don't listen to that part enough. But I had no, I was kind of joke, like I was raised by wolves. So I had no one telling me about logic or anything, right? I was when you're in survival mode, one thing that we do have is you're only listening to your instincts. And so my instincts were just kind of like, I have to get out of here. I've got to, like, I've just got to survive this. I've just got to get through this. And then one day I can get out of here. And I think that's what kept me going.
Well, instincts can also be called wolf instincts, and tapping women into their wolf instinct is actually a whole job, right? Like getting them in touch with that instinct and that anger and that primal energy. I lead mountain breathwork infused with Reiki classes, and a lot of what we do is tapping into that primal energy, doing primal sounding, primal screaming. And also, one of the classes that I like to teach is called using anger as a tool.
Beautiful.
And it sounds like you really used your anger as a tool. And I agree. And our last interview, we talked about anger too. She said she felt her most embodied when she was letting out her rage. And I do think it's something that, like, rewilding we hear about, like, I do think it's something that is so important that we get back to that, like, instinct of this. I don't fucking like this, and because that energy, like you said, like, that is that is energy that you can harness if you use it, if you bring it to the right place.
Absolutely. It's third chakra. It's personal power, right? It's will. It's your free will. And from another, like, just to give the psychological perspective to help women like connect to why it's so important. Women who repress their anger, they're much more likely to have autoimmune disease and fibromyalgia.
Of course, that makes sense.
Yeah, Dr. Gabor Mate has studied this a lot. Yeah, and he talks about like that repressed anger.
Yep.
Always leads to some kind of physical dis-ease. So it's like letting that out is not only good for your mind, your body, but your actual physical health will suffer.
Yeah, I was thinking about that, about how it seems like the people around you are taking their anger out on themselves in one sense with their frustration with life, but you seem to use that direction and that anger to not take it out on yourself so much, at least in the story you've just told, but to move forward with it, to use it as that impetus to make your life better.
Totally. And that is the purpose of anger. Like if I'm studying Vedic astrology right now, and so we talk about the planets as kind of energies and entities, and Mars can be angry, right? He's the protector and the defender. So he speaks to you through anger. He speaks to you through that way. And that's what we all need, a strong Mars, because we need to say no to things. We need to live in alignment with our truth. He's a Dharma planet, which means truth. Like, so I also have Mars in the first house. So that probably gave me a good, like, I have fire in me. So
yes, you do. Yeah. Yes, you do. No, I was going to say my experience came through my body, and I had severe and debilitating low back pain. Was kind of the catalyst for me. But Dr. John Sarno wrote the book Healing Back Pain: The Mind-Body Connection, and he talks about repressed anxiety and anger. And at the time, I was like, I'm not angry. I'm like, right? And then I was like, wait a minute. Yes, I am. So I love that. I love that we're talking about this. You are just fascinating. Oh my God. Like, wow. What a bright light. What an incredible story you have. Did your mom ever like get a chance to see who you are and who you've become, and like really get to see how empowered and embodied you are? She passed about 10 years ago now. So she's been gone a while, but I did get through, I guess before she passed, I got through undergrad and graduate school. So she knew that I was going down this path. And when my sister had finally overdosed, my mom overdosed about 6 months later, and luckily she survived that. But what had happened is, it was in a way a blessing, because what had happened is through her overdose, that got her put into the system in the state of Washington of basically they put her into assisted living care at that facility. She was young, but they did that because they were like, she needed to rehab and all those kinds of things. So in that, they managed her much better. And so I did get that opportunity about a year and a half before she passed to kind of see her not in, because there was time where we were estranged from one another. There was a good 7-year period where I could not speak with her. She went down a path of, she was using meth at one point. Her and her
her, the man she was with at the time, were both using a lot of meth. She had gone to jail. I'm also like the first woman in my immediate family to not go to jail. So
Wow.
my mom and my sister had both done time. My mom had done time in LA and in Washington, or California and Washington. So, there was times where I needed that break from her, and I definitely always share that with people because like I want them to know that that's okay, that if you have a toxic parent, you might need to take time for yourself. But toward the end, she did know that I was going down this path, and I told her, and I had a conversation with her, that I wanted to share our story and the things that had happened. And she did give me permission. She said that she wanted to know that her life mattered. And so I feel like that was the positive of it, is like everything that she went through, which, she had a horrific life as well. My grandmother, my maternal grandmother, also had drug addiction, or, she was addicted to pills and alcohol. And she had also lost her life through that. So my mom became an orphan when she was like 15 years old. So, that cycle of trauma for most of us in our families, it may not, mine is the extreme form, but I've been working with clients for over 12 years now. And I believe we all have some form of trauma. It's just it looks different for all of us.
Yes.
Mine is more of the capital T extreme trauma, but that was what I was here to experience. And other people, they don't even understand their traumas. They don't even understand the things they've been through and how it's blocking esteem or belief or money or, everything in our lives. It's like we really have to start looking at our history and how it's creating our future.
Tori, I know you have so much expertise in the spiritual end of things as well as the business end of things. You really and are the embodiment of marrying these two worlds. And so I'm fascinated about both of those worlds. And there's like, I almost feel like we need to have 2 episodes with you. I think that what's really interesting, that we had a conversation with Sarah Kranz, and she asked her mother about her mom's experiences with hands of God moments. And you have so many people that in your soul family that are on the other side.
Yeah.
I would just be so fascinated to hear anything that you would feel like sharing about the other side.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because I'm pretty intuitive, or, like that's one of my probably strongest gifts. But what's interesting is I've gotten more information from the other side for other people than myself. And I do believe in realms. So I think some of my family members have gone to different realms than might be communicating with me, if that makes sense. But I definitely, my sister is the one who drops in the most to say hi. So I can be listening to, I am a quarter Native American, so I get a lot of animal messages, but I also get song is typically how she talks to me. Because when I was little, she was 8 years older than me. She would take me out in the car and like we would, and it was like when Guns N' Roses was really popular. And so we would play that tape over and over and over again. And so sometimes I'll just be driving and all of a sudden it will be like, I'll hear a specific song. And I'm not even listening to a radio station that plays that kind of music. So it's so random. So I always know it's her like saying hello. So I kind of get these small intuitive hits from knowing that they're just saying hello. But I really do believe in the eternity of the soul and that the body is just a shoe, and one day it will drop away and we will go to the appropriate realm for learning, and then most of the time I think we'll be back. I don't think this is my first rodeo.
Yes, that's the other thing I was noticing when you were first telling your story, as I was thinking, so Tori took the graduate, she's in the program of souls that's like, I want that challenge. And you just were like, let me take the big one.
The big one.
Because you have an incredibly huge mission to help an incredibly large amount of people. Because you've been in every aspect of these pain points that you can see, like Kathy Heller says, you can like take the flashlight and like you know every corner of the cave. And you can be like, let me shine the light so you can see, because I've been here. I know this cave.
Yes. In Vedic astrology, we have a similar belief. Or, the Vedas talk about how some souls come in with with an advanced plan, and they want to burn out a lot of karmas. And so they come in, and the best wisdom is lived wisdom. Like there's so many great, like psychologists or therapists who read these things, right? But it's like when someone else has lost their mother, or someone else has like had a miscarriage, whatever pain, if you're sitting with someone who's had that experience, you just know that they get it at a different level. And
Yeah.
so I think that is the one thing that I am most grateful for from all the difficulty, is that I never feel shocked or or anything when clients they can tell me
Yeah, like
anything
there's
that's
no
happened to them, any
judgment.
trauma. Yeah, it's like I'm really like, yes, I understand that, or not that I know your experience, but I know what that's like to have to sit there or experience that, or figure out how to crawl out of that.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, I definitely believe in the path of the soul, and that was not intuitive to me, by the way. Like the universe and God and the angels, they all had to really hit me over the head pretty hard. Grew up, in this difficult situation. So my little Tori self remembers thinking, there's no way there's a God. God cannot exist in this kind of world. Like that. I remember telling people when I was like 9 that God was like Santa Claus. Like I'd never seen it. Eventually I'm going to find out it's not true. It's like, it's like, this is something very, so I kind of really was very agnostic, but atheist even.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was very into astrology. I was very into the universe, the nature, those kinds of things. But like when it came to like God, I was very unsure about that. And so it was really some divine, intense moments that woke me up to that. And the first one, I was about 23 or 24. I was in Seattle driving to my job, and I'm in my little, like, I had like a little Nissan Sentra, so a little tiny compact car. And I remember all of a sudden I heard this male voice scream at me, Tori, get out of this lane. Get out of this lane. It was 2 left-hand turn lanes. And I'm here, and I get over. Like, and I thought someone was screaming at me from the street. And then it dawned on me, they said my name, which was freaking weird. But this is like, I'm barely, and then I hear crash. This huge SUV comes and hits the Jetta and just annihilates it. And it still gives me chills to think about it. By my own volition of being in undergrad, I'm a crazy person. Now I'm hearing voices, like so there was a lot of these instances, and I've had about 4 of them in my life where I know that my life was possibly in danger, or something was going to happen that was not on my path. And that is when my guides actually yelled at me. And it took a long time for me to really realize that like that was a gift, and that they were trying to guide me. But initially I was like trying to brush it off, and like something must be wrong with me. Do I need an MRI? Like it really freaked me out, but it did save my life. There was another time when I was living in Japan.
You were living in Japan? That's not on your bio. What? We need to include this in your bio.
I'm a crazy kid. So when I was about 19, I met a handsome sailor who was living in Bremerton. We met in Seattle, and we were dating. We were like, madly in love. And he was getting stationed to Japan. And he's like, well, if we get married, he can go. And I was like, why not? Like, so we just went down to the courthouse and we got married, and I went to Japan with him. And he was gone most of the time, so that didn't work out. He was a good guy, but we were 19 and 21, and I think we were married for 18 months, and I think we saw each other for about like 18 weeks. You know what I mean? It was just like, it was, but the whole reason I went there, I realized, is because when I was in Japan, I was living there, and I was basically alone all the time because he was gone. So I started, that's where I learned about Buddhism. So I started like learning about Zazen Buddhism.
Yes.
And I was like, okay, I don't know about, like, I wasn't sure about God and religion, but Buddhism, I was like, this makes sense to me. And so I really enjoyed that. And then there was a moment in Japan where I was on the street, and their modeling height is much shorter than here. It's 5'3". I'm 5'3". So a lot of times people would come up to me on the street and be like, oh, would you do like pictures for us? Or just like I was 19, so I was cute then. And like,
you're still
so
cute now.
But I mean, I was little, so, or I did some pictures, and so there was this other guy who said like, oh, we want you to do modeling. Will you come in here? And so I was walking with him, and then I had a bad feeling. And again, like this body, this kind of feeling, this voice, like, get out of here. And I ran as fast as I could. The guy tried to grab my arm, and I took off into the subway station. So I'm living in Tokyo. It's super busy. And I'd run it like, like a movie, like I get into the train, the doors close right behind me, and I sit down, and all of a sudden, like right in front of me, this white guy. And you just don't see that a lot in Japan. It's
Mm-hmm.
like usually like there's primarily Japanese people. And I'm like, he sees I'm like visibly shaken, right? And he goes, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "No." I was like, "These guys like tried to take me into a room, and I got away." And I told him kind of the scenario. It looked like a club, blah blah blah. And he told me, "I work for the U.S. Embassy, and that is how they get women to sex traffic them."
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
And so it was like there's these moments in my life where I had these, we're talking about like that, like wilding, like
Mm-hmm.
reconnecting to your intuition. Like it will always save you. It will never lie to you. And so I just had so many of those moments in life where these crazy, like this voice or this feeling would just come over me. And it's like, if I didn't listen to that, I don't know if I would be here.
Yes.
And so I just share that to
wow.
like remind us, like, no matter what it is, even if it's like, I don't know about dating this guy, or I don't know about anything. Just
Yeah.
and we all have to get hit over the head a million times. I still don't always listen to it, right? Like there's like, even I moved recently, and I moved into this place, and I don't love it. It's too loud. And I had a little anxiety when I was signing the lease, and it's
Mm-hmm.
like,
Mm.
I should have listened to that. I thought it was just because like, oh, this is more than I wanted to pay, or you know what I mean? Like a part of me was like, oh, this is abundant. I'm getting,
Yeah, sometimes it's a still small voice, and sometimes
totally.
it's that louder, get out of the lane, you're going to get hit by a car voice. But
Yes.
if you're in your body, right? You're listening to your body, you're going to know what to do.
Yeah. I always say your body will never lie to you. Your mind will always make up crazy shit.
That's
Yeah.
been kind of a theme that we've had recently on the show, like in human design, like your mind is going to tell you all kinds of things, but your body's really where you need to tune in.
Yeah.
I have a question. So, I'm picturing you, this young girl, and you're angry, and you're like, if there is a God, like, why the heck would this be my life? Like, and then you kind of, your will, your strong will, your maybe your Mars, and whatever it was that you were like, I'm determined. So like, at what point did that shift for you, where you were like, there's no God, I'm angry, to like, maybe there is a God, and maybe all this stuff happened so that I could, have this experience? And because I think, like, there's two ways to go, right? Like, I see this all the time. There are people that stay stuck in this happened to me, and I'm angry about it. And they never, they never experience the kind of freedom and joy and purpose, right, that I believe that is possible. I mean, you
Mhm.
are a living example of that. Like, there is nobody that can come to you and tell you anything that is going to top your story, right? And so it's like, how powerful is that? Like, I'm here to tell you that it is possible to move out of that. Like, so when did that shift for you, and what do you think allowed that for you to happen? Where you like, oh, maybe
Yeah.
this is the hands of God, or
Yeah, that's a good question. And no one's ever asked me that before. But so it was kind of like these little experiences that started to open my mind up to the possibility that there was something greater than me.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I was in grad school, and I really started to like dive into my traumas, and I was very determined to be successful, but then it was much more about like, but now I want to be happy.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Because the
Yeah.
anger got me success, like that propelled me into corporate, and I had done everything I was supposed to do, right? Like I had gotten married, I had the house, I had the car, I had the job, but why wasn't I happy?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I felt like something was missing. And now I know that was the divine was missing from my life. I wasn't connected to my purpose, my truth, my dharma. And so I went looking for that. Like, why am I not happy? And I just thought, oh, it's because I'm in the wrong job. So of course I started to like, so then I went to grad school. But in that process, I had kind of, again, the universe, God kicking me in the butt the whole way. I went to Sedona for like a retreat, and I met three people in a row. All their name was Gabrielle. I met
Mm.
a kid, I'm not even joking, a kid at a bar. Like I don't even drink, but I was there to eat. And this kid was waiting for his mom. And he's like, my name is, and they all said the same words. My name is Gabriel, like the angel.
Wow.
And I thought, what the hell? And I'm like 30 years old. I don't know anything about any of this stuff, right? And then same thing, like my tour guide who takes me on like a Red Rock tour, his name's Gabriel, like the angel. Another woman, I'm just like, this is weird. So finally I walk into like some woo bookstore, right? And I'm just like, do you guys have like an angel section? Like like is there someone named Gabriel? And she looked at me like I was so stupid. Yeah, the angel section is over there and there's plenty of books on Gabriel. And so I walk over and I find this book called Doreen Virtue's The Light Worker's Way.
Yep.
And I read that book and, you know, it just came out. So I didn't even know what year this was anymore, like early 2000s, right?
Mhm.
And that was like, holy crap, this is it. And then Doreen led me to You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay, which she talks about you choosing your parents. Louise Hay also had a very horrible childhood, lots of abuse and all that kind of stuff. And so that was really the moment that I started to open, like I realized like it was kind of like I'd started yoga at 21. So I'd started to heal my body, my nervous system. I'd really done the mental work of the psychology through my degrees. And then that last piece was that spiritual piece. And I was interested in it, but it was like that was the moment it all grounded of like, no, there is some God. And like I said, God had to kick me in the pants multiple times and give me a lot of messages. It was not, you know, my mind was pretty, my mind is very strong and stubborn. And, you know, this is why Buddhism and the Vedas are good for me because it's all about how to train your mind and beginner's mind and all those kinds of things. But yeah, that was the moment that I think it really started to like gel. Like, no, this has happened for you, not to you. And it's up to you to take your pain and turn it into your purpose.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's like
I
the
love that.
path of victim to ownership.
Yes. And we
Okay,
all go down that.
we gotta
Yeah.
ask you, what is the embodied woman to you, Tori? Because you've got so much wealth of wisdom.
Yeah, I believe it's like living your truth and being comfortable within your skin and yourself. And when you're like, I feel like when my thoughts, my words, and my actions align, I know I'm congruent and I'm embodied.
Mm.
Because
Perfect.
I never want to feel like I've met so many people. I live in LA, you know, where they are one person online and they're another person offline. And that's like a big, to me, a big like metaphor for being so disembodied. It's like who you are should be the same everywhere across the board. If I show up in a boardroom, like, yes, maybe I might talk more about business. If I show up in a spiritual center, I might talk more about spirituality, but you're always going to get the same Tori, and I'm always going to tell you the same things.
Mhm.
That's
That's a really, that's a really
yes.
good explanation. And I think I can so relate to that. Like there were periods of my life where there was a dissonance. And it wasn't like I was intentionally or consciously like showing up as different versions of myself. It's just that I felt a sense of fragmentation and I didn't totally understand what it felt like to be embodied and to be integrated. And so
Yes.
that I think that's really good for someone who's asking themselves, like, I don't know, am I embodied? Like, look at your life. Do you feel a sense of integration and resonance in, you know, how you show up in different
Oh
places?
yeah. I mean, I used to like especially when, you know, toward the biggest part of my like stepping into my spirituality, I was still in corporate America. And
Mhm.
so it was very funny because I felt like I had to be one person there. And then, you know, I joked that, you know, I was going to write a book called Coming Out of the Spiritual Closet.
Mhm.
Like at that time, it wasn't, you know, it's so much more accepted now, but in 2010, it wasn't, you know, at this time when I was getting ready to leave my corporate job and all those kinds of things, it wasn't really like this spiritual influencer world and all this stuff. It was still very strange and woo woo. And, you know, you wouldn't really be respected if you were talking about a lot of those things. So I feel like it took me some time to really integrate the spirituality aspect of myself because it's very easy for me to lean into the business and the psychology side, right? That's people immediately respect that.
Right.
Right.
I think that was the biggest part of my integration was allowing myself to be like A, vulnerable about my story and B, really allowing people to know like no, spirituality is one of the biggest tools that I use to heal.
Who is your most life-changing mentor?
God, probably the divine. she, she really kicks my butt. I don't know if I've met my teacher in physical form yet. I have a lot of respect for people like Dr. Gabor Mate and people like that. Paramahansa Yogananda, I've read a lot of his stuff. I really respect it. But I actually had a Vedic astrology teacher, a person read my chart one time, and he said he didn't think any of my teachers were in this life.
Interesting.
And that actually resonated with me a little bit because I haven't had anyone yet who really, not to say I won't, maybe they're going to come later in life, but I haven't had I've had some good gurus, I've had some good teachers, but no one's ever really I've never been like, yes, you, I have my Vedic astrology teacher has a guru in India and he followed her for 20 years and they have such a beautiful relationship. And I'm like, that is so cool, but it has not happened for me yet.
I feel like you're your own hero, it sounds like.
Yes,
Yeah.
I do believe in that. I do believe in we should all be our own guru because guru means giver of light. And so it's like, I need to give that. We all need to give ourselves permission to be the light that we are. And that's typically what a guru does.
Yeah. I love the story about the three Gabriels. I love that so much. And I think it's really just important to mention, I think that's happening all the time and we're just not noticing it or paying attention. And so when you mentioned Sedona, I was listening to a podcast earlier that was talking all about Sedona and I was like, okay, I'm listening. This is the second mention of Sedona. Okay. Right. So yeah, so I think it's just, that's what makes life an adventure is what listening for and paying attention to the signs like that. And then being willing to, go down the path.
Yeah. Like if
I
you
love
hear about
that.
I always have a rule for myself. If I hear about something 3 times, then
Yep.
it is a divine message. But when it comes to things like animals and things like that, I always look that up. And a lot of people are like, oh, it's so silly. But the more I learned about my Native American ancestry and what tribe my father had come from and all those kinds of things, the more I got into this stuff. And it's just so fascinating that people will think it's like a silly thing, like, oh, I saw a lizard. And then they'll say, well, Google the spiritual meaning of lizard.
Yeah.
And it'll be the exact message they need. Or I had a client,
Yeah.
I saw a spider. Like, that's horrible. I'm like, no, a spider is so good. Oh,
Yeah. Oh, I
Dream
Google
time.
everything.
Pay attention to your dreams and visions. Lizard.
Yep. Yep. I was in the car the other day with my mom and my dad and my kids, and I see angel numbers all the time. And my kids are they're like, Mom, 555. Like they're super into it and they know all the meanings. And we were talking about money. And my parents, my mom was talking about, some financial worries that she's having, which, bless her heart. But all of a sudden I look up and there was the car in front of us said 888, which is like abundance, financial, abundance and prosperity. And I was like, look, kids, it's angel 888. Mom, money, it's not, and I could just feel the energy in the car. I don't think that they're totally opposed, but they're like, that's great, Amber. So money is just gonna come now because we saw the numbers. And I'm like, I don't know. It makes me feel good. It makes me feel hopeful. Like it's a sign that my guides and my angels are like, we got you. We hear you.
It's gonna be okay.
It's gonna be okay.
And we all need that. I love that your kids are into it. That's fun.
Yeah.
Well, because you mentioned money, it made me think we haven't asked you, Tori, yet about money and abundance. So how do you help women with their abundance?
Yes, I really help them connect. Like I believe in raising our self-worth. I think it affects our net worth. And it doesn't mean that we don't have self-worth. I just think that if we want to hold more abundance, we have to grow it. So even if you have great self-worth now, sometimes we don't have great self-worth with money.
Yeah.
I look at blocks and traumas always to see, because, just as we have a relationship with other people, we have a relationship with money. And all the things we heard about money are programmed into that subconscious mind. And we are repeating it. But I also like to remind women that we are very new with money. In the United States, we could not have a bank account until the 1974. Credit cards,
the year I was born.
Yeah, right? So it's like our mothers couldn't actually access a bank account.
Yeah.
So we are learning about this power that is money. And I think women are much better stewards with money, but we've been told we're not.
That's right.
There's thousands of years of, if we talk about like generational trauma or whatnot, we've got a lot of it as the women, as,
Yes.
the witch wound, right?
Yep.
Witch in Europe means wise one, and witches of Europe were typically the women who did healing work and could make extra money. They were midwives, they were healers, they were herbalists. They made money.
Mm-hmm.
What did the church do to take that away from them?
Mm-hmm.
They burned them at the stake because they
Yeah.
couldn't be controlled.
Yeah.
A woman who has money does not have to be in places or jobs or with people that she does not want to be. And so to me, that is the most important empowerment, is giving women abundance. And there's a lot of stuff we believe about money, about abundance, about it being bad, but it's like, unless you came from poverty, like there's this saying that money is the root of all evil. It is not true.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, it's not even what Jesus said. Jesus said, love of only money is the root of all evil, and people cut it off, first of all.
Right.
Second of all, if you look at poverty, it is the most evil thing on the planet.
It's
Poverty,
what causes people to do bad things.
totally. You will kill someone if you need, you know what I mean? Like, this is, if you can't survive, like if you will lie, cheat, and steal to survive.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we even look at like the destruction of the planet, a lot of that is because people are trying to survive. They're killing elephants because they're trying to survive. You know what I mean? Like, they're trying to make money. So it's like, the more money, I believe, we can get into the hands of conscious, good women, that will
Yes.
change the world. The World Bank, a lot of people don't even know this, they love to give loans, microloans to women.
Mm-hmm.
Women will create jobs in small third world countries. Men will typically gamble it away. They're like, we can give a woman $1,000 and a herd of goats. She'll make milk. She'll get jobs. She'll feed her babies. She'll feed the babies next door. She will create a little empire and make sure that it's working. And so,
Head tingles. Oh my God. Keep talking. Sorry. This is so cool.
Talk more. This is awesome.
The Dalai Lama said that the Western woman will change the world. And he truly
That's what I
believes
was just
that.
going to say. Yep.
Yeah. And I think that is such a divine message. And there's so many women who could do such amazing things if they had the resources to not only take care of their own family, their own children, to have that choice, but then to go out and have the resources to help others in the way that we will. Men have been running shit for a long time, and they've messed it up.
Mm-hmm.
It's time for us to come in and take over, and not only create equality, but do more, do it right, do it well, show that we're creating spaces that for us to be. Like, I'm so glad I don't, like I worked for a great company, but I work with women who don't work for great companies, and they're being burned out and they're being taken advantage of, and they're making 80% of the pay of someone else. It's like, that's not okay. And, we don't have to stay in marriages that we're not happy in anymore just for money.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to worry if our children are going to eat food because we can't stay, there's just so much around it.
The financial literacy that women have has not been leaned into in our culture. And so what I'm hearing is permission slip to lean into the literacy of finances. And because young girls are not developmentally in their brain as their tendency is to not be as good at math in the beginning. And so then we start to think that, like, that's not our area and boys are better at that, and like, we'll just let the man do it.
Yeah, I'm terrible at math, but I can add up money.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I feel like as a woman, like, as long as we understand how our worth, how we make money, how we spend money, how we save, and how we invest. And the younger we can get them to understand that they're worth making a lot of money, they're worth keeping their money, that they don't have to spend it on everyone else. Or, you spend it consciously and with awareness. Because I grew up with a lot of codependency. So even when I was making money, I was also giving it away to people who had a lot of problems, right? So it's like people, constant problems. Like, I remember being 17 years old and having to get someone's car out of tow, because they were drinking and driving. And so it's like, there was me, 17 years old, paying $400 to get their car out of tow. So that's another thing, like, as women, we've got to learn about like those 4 things and all the math you need to know is how to add, subtract, and then learn compound interest. Like that is the most important. I wish
Yes.
someone would have taught that to me when I was 20. I really thought investing was something that you did when you had a lot of money and when you were older. And so I did it
Mhm.
way too late in the game. But you know, I'm a little girl who came from nothing, and through real estate and lots of other things, you know, I've created abundance I never would have thought was possible. Like, and I hope to become a multimillionaire on my own, you know, like as a single woman even.
I just want
We
to
need
say,
you. We need
we need you,
you.
yeah. But what you just said, you know, you said like I should have done it sooner or whatever. I think it's really important to recognize um, the generations that raised us and the collective consciousness and collective energy, and you know, like what you just said. It wasn't until 1974. I mean,
Mhm.
that's the year I was born. So who I was raised by and who they were raised by, that was like the mindset that you're talking about and the consciousness that you're talking about and the understanding and the awareness is totally different. And so we've carried that. So it's really important, I think, to recognize that. It takes some of the shame out of it. Like,
Oh, for sure.
I'm not good with money, or it's like, no, it's just that I haven't given myself permission or had the opportunity, because that was just the consciousness that I was raised in. Like my dad, you know, my mom worked a little bit, but mostly like my dad worked.
Yeah.
That's, you know, and her understanding or involvement in, you know,
Finances.
finances, that's not something we talked about. That's not something I learned as a young girl. And,
Mhm.
you know, but
Oh gosh, no, I learned that
it's
either.
never too late. It's never too late.
It never is. No, even if you're 65 and you're listening, it's like it's not, you can still take over. No, it's true. Like you know, obviously growing up in poverty, like the only examples of money I ever, or you know, we had better times when my mom was married. So basically all I saw was
Mm-hmm.
like,
Mm.
was either you're on welfare or a man is the best financial option you've got.
Right.
Because she would work jobs here and there, and you know, she was like a grocery checker at Fred Meyer, which is the Washington store. So it's like she kind of had, you know, she did what she could at times, but like our life was the best was better definitely when she was married to someone who had a decent job, right? Like she was married to a plumber at one point. I thought we were so wealthy.
Loaded.
Yeah, I was like, we have food and we have like it was like, oh my God.
You know how much it costs to get a plumber to come over? We're always like, we can fix it ourselves. I mean, plumbers probably do okay. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think he did
They
all
do.
right. So I was like, but you know, it was like, so yeah, I like that's again like that's what I work with women is kind of like what
Yes.
are your money blueprints? What are your experiences?
Yes.
What were the models that you were given? Because just like in psychology we call them love maps, we have like money maps of like, okay,
Hmm.
men make the money, women don't make, and we don't realize how it seeps into our subconscious. Because even like I
Right.
recently went through a separation, and I remember that had come up for me a little bit, was like, oh wait, am I gonna be okay? Because like being married is safer financially. That's what I learned growing up, right? And so it's like I had to even work through that. Like that inner child was like, oh no, girl, we're not gonna be okay. You need to be married to be financially okay. Like remember, this is what we experienced. Every time we didn't have a man, things were bad. So it was
Yes.
like
It's
that
the
old
patriarchy kind of wants you to feel that
totally.
way.
Yeah. I just wish if in college, even if someone had, you know, talked to us about like, I wish it was a required class that someone
Yeah.
was like, this is what compound interest is. I would have been, it would have been very helpful.
And
Yeah.
I'm divorced. I have a 9 and 11-year-old, and I want to be a model for my children
Mm,
of a new story. I really like, I have such a deep desire to be a different story for them both. Like that
yes,
it's, you know,
yes,
yeah.
yeah.
I know I look back on, you know, my nana, like, and you know, back, like it was, she was divorced from my grandfather. He remarried like 4 times. But my experience of her, even till the day she died, was that she like worked for him. Like he
Mm,
owned a trailer park in Seal Beach, and she worked for him. And then she lived in a house in a trailer that he paid for. Like she never fully got to experience her own like possibility when it came to manifesting abundance financially in her own life. Like, and that's a story that is, you know, throughout my lineage. So I want to be the cycle breaker. I want to be the one that's like, oh no, that's not how it goes anymore.
Yeah, have your own home or pay for it on your own or whatever it is you want to create
Yes.
on your own.
Yes.
Yeah, that's an amazing thing to break.
So,
You break
Tori,
it thousands of women.
Yeah.
we just want to know some tools that you are like, these are my top 3
Yes.
that you go to, top 3 that you go to when you feel disembodied.
Yes. First and foremost is moving my body, like getting in nature, ideally. Like if I'm really off, if I can get to the ocean or just even walk like my neighborhood, it helps so much to just feel into my legs, move my body, move the energy, look at trees. You know, there's a lot of science behind this too.
Yes.
But I really believe that like returning to the earth is the biggest thing. Like ground yourself. Go, you know, if you've got a patch of grass, go frickin' stand in it. Get some sun on your face if you can. You know I lived in Washington. I get that's not always not always an option.
Yeah.
But getting outside if you can, or just moving your body. And I know some days you can't get up and do that. So the other options are like my top 3 would be getting into nature, moving somehow. Meditation is huge for me. That was the most life-changing for me. Like when I think about what changed my reactions and my wounded self showing up so much, it was primarily meditation, because I learned to catch myself in the gap between wanting to respond versus react to whatever stimulus was in front of me. But also meditating gets me recentered and reconnected to my truth and myself, and not like my fear or my doubt or all the normal things that come up every day still for me, right? Every time I'm trying to expand something, I go through the same fear doubt cycle that all of us do. Like,
What's
so
your human design?
I'm a generator.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah.
Generator
That makes
2-4.
sense.
And my whole head, all this is empty, like from
Yeah, us
Open.
too.
So, yeah, completely like the bottom of the bowl, like everything's colored in at the bottom and everything at the top is completely open. So
Yeah, I think that's pretty common.
Mm.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
you know, the whole thing we were learning in human design, right? You were just saying earlier is like we're not supposed to be in our heads anyway. We're supposed to
right.
like our wisdom is all down here. It's all here. Like you were talking about the
Yes.
wolf coming back full circle to that wolf instinct.
Yes. Sacral.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, I'm sacral generated or something of that nature.
Ah.
And then I think third, the biggest one that saved me, like since I was like a 6th grader, is journaling.
Ah,
Ooh, good.
I write everything out and I just let it flow. And if it's bad, because a lot of people, my clients will say that to me, like, oh, what if I write bad stuff? Tear it out, rip it up. No one will ever find it. But like, all of our negative thoughts, like they swirl in us and we get stuck in them. And I always say, don't think it, ink it. Like just get it out of you. And there is something about the neuroscience of actually writing versus typing. So because it takes a lot more energy to write something physically, that's why it's so important to actually journal. But sometimes you can be your own therapist and you can write all this stuff down. You can read it back and be like, okay, no, or this is what I need to do. But that is like, even, recently going through my divorce, like I blew through like a journal a month.
Tori, I just have to show you. I cleared off my desk today. This is from last year. And now I just ordered a whole new stack.
Good. Yeah, I feel like journaling has saved, and I at one point I found my childhood journals like like maybe 5-7 years ago, and it was a lot of dark, it was very unhappy. So I decided to burn those all. I went down to the beach in Newport Beach,
Nice.
and I put them in a thing, like, and I did kind of like a witch's ritual, kind of like I transmute all of this energy. So I wanted to let all that go. But so I believe that, you can write it, you can burn it, you can destroy it. Like you don't have to keep it. So many people are afraid to journal because A, they don't know what to do, and B, they're afraid someone might find it. So
Yes.
just write whatever your crazy thoughts are. Like, I always joke, we all we'll have the crazy lady who lives in the attic, and she says crazy stuff like, get it.
There's a different crazy lady in the basement. There's
I have been journaling also since the beginning of my awakening, and I have a book coming out next month, and
Oh, nice.
there are a lot of journal entries in there, and I'm like, oh, am I really gonna share that? Like, it's like, just, but I think it's healing to hear other people's stories and recognize your own story in other people's as well. So that's my intention behind sharing mine and not burning all of it. But I think that's also a very good idea.
Oh, these were from like I was 12 years old. I still definitely have some journals from recently. I also have kind of a crazy memory. Sometimes it's not always serving of me because I can remember too much.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be like, you said this and that, and you were sitting in this chair and you were wearing a red shirt, and they're like, how do you remember that? I'm like, oh. It's like my little brother too. Like, he doesn't always remember a lot of our childhood because he's like kind of him blocked it out, and I have like vivid memories. So I'm like, oh, that must be nice. Because some of our brains like protect us from it, and it's like it's blurry or it's fuzzy or it's not really there. So but
it's in the subconscious though, so it's still there.
It's in there.
It's
in there. Oh, Tori, you're so fun to talk to. I feel like we could pick your brain forever.
I know. I agree. There's you have so much wisdom, and I mean, you blend Western, you have Eastern, and Buddhism, and God, and angels. I mean,
finances.
I mean, like how do you work? What's your like favorite offering that you're
what's
right
your
now?
structure?
I work primarily one-to-one, and then I do small groups.
Okay.
So I do help people like get unblocked when it comes to purpose, their path, finances, and just really helping them figure that out. Like, what am I here to do? How do I heal the stuff that's holding me back so that I can live my purpose and I can create a prosperous life for myself? And so I find that at this moment, I will create an online course next year, but I'm still doing I love my groups, like right now, like they're primarily based in the UK, but like, I just love them so much. They have transformed so much in 12 weeks. I love having that like one-to-one touch and be able to translate to them, and I am very like, I'm an avid reader and studier, and I used to read a book a week. Like, I was a crazy person. And when I do a deep dive in something, like my yoga teacher training, even, it was like 2.5 years long of deep dive, going every single weekend. Like, it was just like, I immerse in it because I have this weird thing where I have to like become a master of it, and I'll go into things for like a year. You know what I mean? Like, so Tony Robbins said it best. He said, we underestimate what we can do, or I'm sorry, we overestimate what we can do in a year, and we greatly underestimate what we can do in 10. And I think that's what you see now with me, right? It's like, I'm almost 46. So I've been on this path since I was, at least starting with yoga and all that, like 21. So I was at 20. I've been on this path for 25 years. So it's been a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
You're in LA? You live in LA?
Yeah, I'm in Beverly Hills. I'm right.
Okay.
If you're ever, I'm at the moment, I live near the Golden Triangle, they call it.
Okay. Yeah, I'm in Palos Verdes. So
you are. So you're not that far at all.
I mean, yeah.
I was gonna say, depending on traffic, you're a world.
Depending on traffic. Yeah, I know. I know. It's true. Oh my gosh.
I used to work in Beverly Hills at an acupuncture office.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, Bernaz Forat.
I don't know of them.
You should check her out. She's great.
I literally just moved up here from the Newport area in August.
Okay. Oh, wow. Big change.
Yes.
Talk about worlds apart. Orange County and Beverly Hills, very, very different energy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, both abundant, but definitely different energy. It's LA is much more intense in general.
It is intense. Yeah, there's quite a density.
Yes.
Well, This is me with my editor hat on going, we gotta wrap this up.
Okay.
Yes.
Because I definitely want to continue this conversation, the three of us offline, off the podcast.
When you don't have to edit it.
But yeah, any closing words of guidance? Like, what would you say to a woman and someone who's wanting to be a more embodied woman? What would your final words of guidance be?
Yes, I would say that no matter what's happened, anything is possible. And I know it's hard to believe from where you are, but take small steps every day. Don't just swing for the fences. Think about what's one or two things I can do today to feel a little bit better. And when you start feeling better, you'll start making different decisions. And keeping small promises to yourself will help you take the next right step. That builds your confidence that, it's like it just starts with the meditation practice. It just starts with reaching out to someone or picking up that book. Like, it's 1,000 small steps that got me here. And it was just that persistence of taking us one step every day will get you there. And it may not be as fast as you want it to, because it never is.
Mm-hmm.
But you'll get there eventually.
I love that so much.
I do too. I think that's brilliant advice. Every step matters, and little baby steps. Little baby steps. Yeah.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for having me and all the kind words.
Thank you, Tori.
Thank you. You are amazing. Oh my God, I love you.
Yes, we'll have to figure out a way to meet up in California.
Okay, for sure. We'll connect.
For sure.
We'll connect.
Okay.
Thank you. Have a
Thanks,
beautiful
Tori.
rest of your day.
Love you.
You too.
Bye.
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 Wow. That was good. That was good.
What a gift.
What a gift.
What a gift.
Yeah. Yeah. She was fascinating. I went off script quite a bit today because I was just so intrigued by how many different places we could go with her.
I know.
Right?
It's like you could really do 10 episodes with her.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm so like, I've always been so intrigued by what it is that, like, you take two people who've had a similar upbringing, and one ends up where Tori is now doing the work that she's doing. And then one ends up like her sister who didn't make it, I'm always so intrigued by that. And I don't think I have an answer. The only way that I can make sense of it is like what we talked about, how our souls come into this lifetime, with a curriculum, with certain lessons, and not everybody is, has the same path. But I'm sure that the women that she helps, like, are divinely guided to her.
Right.
Because she can, very specifically help people who have had that kind of trauma.
Yeah. And she can help. I mean, her base people are all in the UK. How fascinating is that? And she's in Los Angeles, and then she lived in Japan. It's just, I almost feel like she's like three people in one. Like 3 different souls in one body.
It makes sense that she hasn't found a teacher, because she's like a guru herself. Like, who's gonna tell her anything, right? Like, I mean, she's like lived through it.
She likes to study. Like, she goes in.
She's
right? So she's like masters. Well, I was going to say that too. It was like, well, yeah, but she like masters each thing that she feels called to.
Yes.
So it's very interesting though. I like how she doesn't pedestal people.
Uh-huh.
Because that's been a habit of mine, which I'm breaking, is like just starting with my father, like pedestaling these teachers. And she's like, I'm my greatest teacher.
Yeah.
We all could learn from that.
Yeah. The other thing that I think is really valuable, what she said, was she, even with all of her academic endeavors,
Yeah.
she still credits the wisdom gained through lived experiences
That's right.
as the most valuable,
She
right? Like,
does.
so I think that's
Yeah.
so
Life.
impressive, because so many people think like, oh, who am I, to be of service in this way? I don't have a degree, or I don't have a this, or I don't have a that. And it's like, even somebody who does still credits her lived experience and the wisdom that she's gained
Yeah.
as something that's incredibly valuable.
Yeah, that's her. Did she say that was her biggest teacher? Is
I
her
think so.
experience?
Yeah.
And she says that's
said
her
the
biggest
divine.
her
The
big
divine
the
was her biggest teacher.
divine.
Yeah, was her biggest teacher.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
before she came on, she said that was her business partner. I think she
Yeah.
told me was like God or the divine.
Yeah.
So, and then all of her greatest teachers have been on the other side. I mean, fascinating.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of in awe, like, because you just never know. You don't know when you look at someone and you like, what is your story? You have no idea.
Right.
It's just
Yeah.
what you're gonna get.
She's somebody that I wonder if she does speaking, because I feel like I would go sit in an audience and listen to her talk for an hour or two, like just sharing.
Well, I asked her if she has a podcast and she said she wanted to.
Yeah, she's got so much to share. So much to share. Yeah, that was really cool. That was really,
I'm excited
really cool.
to listen back. I was trying to really absorb it in the moment, but she had so many I know we need to wrap up, but she had so many similarities to Sarah Kranz in the things that she said. She even was like, go sit in the grass or go stand in the grass, right? And Sarah was like, go sit in the grass.
And every step matters. That's another thing. Like
every step, the tiny steps.
Yep.
Oh, there was so many things she said I was like, oh my God, that's Sarah. But now I'm blanking on it in this moment, but there were several things. Oh, yes. the songs.
Yes.
Right? Sarah talking about you don't own me. And then Tori was talking about how she hears the messages through songs.
Guns N' Roses. So, I remember Guns N' Roses. We used to drive down to Newport Beach, which is where she just lived. And we had the car. This is totally off topic, but we had a Volvo. And remember the sunroof when you used to have to do this to open
crank
the sunroof?
It, yeah.
And we would spend a week in Newport Beach at a summer house, a beach house. And that was like the thing. We would open it and we would sing "Sweet Child of Mine." That was like, yeah.
Very good. Well, I was telling Tori about the retreat for the podcast guests. I was telling her about the boudoir photo shoot.
Yeah, what'd she say?
She was interested.
I mean, she's sexy.
Yeah.
Every woman is. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for listening. We hope you got a lot out of it the way we did. And we can't wait to have our next conversation with y'all.
We love you.
Love you.